Hello, this is Denise, and this is the Earth Angel Goddess channel, and this channel is all about things related to moving humanity forward. Today we're talking about ways to protect and nurture children. So the first subtopic we're going to talk about is the internet. The internet is it's a great way to learn some information, right? Like related to doing school projects and expanding knowledge and all of that kind of thing. Excuse me. But it's also a playground for predators, okay? So you need to, parents, I need you to really monitor your kids' use on the internet. I mean, hover. I do not care. You can also get apps for their phones so that you can see what's coming in and what's going out. I know my stepdaughter and my and her husband have apps on their kids' phone where they can see everything going in and out, which is fantastic. And just remember that anything that's done online, whether you think it's Snapchat and it disappears and you think it disappears forever, it is not. No, people can recover that. People that know how to recover that can recover that. And it's done. And once you post it on the internet, even if you delete it, it's on there forever. So just tell your kids that. And warn kids that there are going to be some creepy, weird adults posing as kids, or, you know, some of these little weird cults that like to ask kids for things that are inappropriate, and then they end up blackmailing the kids to do other terribly disturbing things. These things are real, okay? So you need to monitor your kids' online behaviors. Do not get slacky or lackey about that, because this is supremely important. So there's some kind of TikTok challenge too that's going on where there's a challenge for like kids darting out from behind vehicles or other things and trying to crisscross in front of moving cars. Supposedly, this is some kind of thing that was talked about in a forum today on Facebook. And well, talk to your kids about that and make sure you put give them the business on not doing that kind of thing, because you want them to stay safe and not be run over, okay? Let's see. Like I say, remember, anything done on, let them know that anything done on Snapchat is recoverable, that, you know, things don't disappear forever. Things you post and delete on the internet also, like I say, that's not gone forever. Literally, just because you delete it, it's not gone. Video games. There are a lot of people, a lot of kids that are playing video games unsupervised. And there are a lot of adults posing as kids and talking to kids through the video game chat things. Just remember, teach your kids, if anything seems like bullying or snarky, or because that hurts kids, I mean, that kind of stuff can get slid in there, but also inappropriate adults that are trying to message and portray that they're kids, or just being an adult and saying, trying to establish a relationship with minors. That stuff happens all the time. So you need to really be monitoring that stuff as well. How else to protect and nurture our kids? The next topic is with routine and structure. Being a kid is hard enough, right? They have to go to school all day, and then maybe they're in a sport and all of this other thing. So it's supremely important to have structure and a routine for them. So they have a regular bedtime every night. They get up every morning the same time. They have dinner every night at the same time. Hopefully you are sitting down at a table together and sharing the day. That studies show that is one of the most important stabilizing forces in a kid's life, is to sit down and have dinner with their parents every night. It's really good for families to bond and to, it's just, if you can do anything during the day to bond as a family, sitting down and eating dinner together at the same, and preferably the same time every night, is a very, very special and important thing, okay? Another way to nurture our children, believe it or not, is with chores. Now, age-appropriate and age-appropriate responsibilities. So don't burden them with chores that are yours, that are, really big things. But appropriate chores, you can choose to pay them an allowance, or I didn't pay my kids an allowance. They lived here, so they needed to learn how to do some things. And, my kids know I've taught them everything. They're very self-sufficient adults. They know how to bake. They know how to sew buttons. They know how to hem pants, for criminy sakes. They know how to do yard work. They know how to do maintenance work around the house. They know how to cook. They know how to clean. They know how to do their laundry. They know how to clean toilets. They know how to do all of that stuff. Because, and the boys should be learning this stuff too. Because, your sons may not marry, if you have sons, they may not marry a woman that knows how to cook or know how to clean. And I'm not saying that mine did that, but, well, they're not, one's not married, but they know how to do it in case a spouse doesn't know how. One's got a girlfriend, one's got a wife. So the other thing is, one controversial statement I'm going to say here is, excuse me, sniffles and allergies here. Our job is to make likable children. And I'm not saying a pushover child. No, I want them to think for themselves and think independently. And that's also what's going to keep them safe. But when I say likable children, are we raising kids to be polite? Do they say please and thank you to the lunch lady? Do they, if they miss the garbage can when they're putting the rest of their lunch scraping it into the garbage, and they drop their milk carton, do they go, I don't need to pick that up? Or do they pick it up and throw it away? Simple things like that. When they order at a restaurant, do you tell them to make sure they say thank you to the server? Okay. And, if they, are they being, kids are kids, but if they're supremely disruptive in public settings, are you correcting them in saying, no, we don't act like that in public? These are all important things. If we don't raise likable children, that would be one of our biggest failures as a parent, honestly. If they're obnoxious, if they're rude, if they're screaming, if they're carrying on, doing all these sorts of things, that's kind of failing as a parent. Do you see what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be mean to parents or anything. We all of us, we all have something that we have done inadvertently to our children that will give them something to talk about in therapy. And so kids need to realize that their parents are trying to do the best they can. They're not perfect, but some parents don't try, but the good parents feel guilty kind of a great deal of the time that they didn't do something better. But we're all gonna give our kids something to talk about in therapy. That's just truth, real. Even the perfect, like if you had a Mary Poppins kind of mom that did everything perfect and spoke just like this in a really sweet voice, a kid's gonna have something to complain about, okay, to go to therapy about and talk about. So just know that on that end, parents, just do the best you can. I mean, honestly, with all of your responsibilities and working and keeping the house up and cleaning and, taking care of family members and all this and that, I'm sure you're doing the best you can. Just remember, you're not going to be perfect. It's okay. And if some parent or somebody else you run into acts like they're perfect, just know they're full of crap. They have some things behind the scenes that they're working through also. No family's perfect. It's all good. Just do the best you can. Okay. But yes, we need to make likable children. Like they're polite in public. They're kind. They are, if they see some kid left out at lunch, they go over and say, hey, do you want to come eat lunch with us? Things like that. Okay. Those are important, really important things to teach your kids. Okay. All right. So then there's another topic, teaching our children, especially those, families that are very Bible based, which is great. Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. This is a long time, raised in the Missouri Synod Church, my whole life, very structured, very, a stoic bunch, I would say, strict, and that's fine. And did my parents recite a lot of Bible passages. No, because we studied it in Sunday school and in church all the time. So, and confirmation. But there is one phrase I want to bring up, and I can't remember. I got to think about. I should have looked this up. What the Bible verse references, but it's the spare the rod and spoil the child statement. Now, as a social worker, I had some clients that would a set of clients. You'll never know who they are, so I can say this. That use the Bible as a means to justify certain kinds of discipline. And so when I went out to the family, and another social worker was with me, we sat down at the table, and so I was saying, we were discussing how, the physical punishments, they were really physical. So real severe physical punishments needed to stop, and that, we could offer help and services into how they could learn different ways to parent, just more in a proactive, positive way. And this father was pretty old, really old school, and said, no, spare the rod and spoil the child. It says in the Bible that if you spare the rod, you'll spoil the child. And I said, so you think that means literally that too? And he goes, yeah, I can whip them. I can do this. I'm like, okay. So I said, no, that's not the correct interpretation of that Bible verse. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, spare the rod and spoil the child does not mean to beat the children. What it means is spare the rod and spoil the child means to discipline, to teach, to discipline the children, and discipline means to teach. So again, spare the rod and spoil the child does not mean to beat. Spare the rod and spoil the child means to impart wisdom and discipline, and discipline means to teach. And he went, oh. So I probably couldn't believe, that my comeback. But no, really, that's what that phrase means. It doesn't mean you beat the children into submission. It means you teach them. Okay, you teach them to be discerning. You teach them self-control. You teach them skills, life skills, responsibility, determination, all sorts of things. But it doesn't mean you get to physically beat them. Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to impart. Another thing is kids we need to keep kids as innocent as they possibly can, especially in this day and age. So again, limit their internet use, monitor their internet use, have them have the computer in the family room, in the dining room only. And while you're looking at things, you're checking, you're looking over their shoulder, you're making sure that they're not in anything they shouldn't be. And you're making sure that things don't, so that they don't get into mischief, so that they don't put themselves at risk, so that people cannot influence them. I had an app on my iPad that my stepdaughter's little girl was using once. It was just an app that was putting clothes, like Barbie clothes on, and like just changing out the outfits. It's like an outfit, like a accessories and clothing based kind of fun game, a stylist kind of game. And even in that game, I was looking at because comments could come through in a chat, and I was like, wow. Like there were kids, I hope they were kids, making comments on her clothing choices on this app, being very negative and just being like, oh, wow, look at that. Look what you did. Just limit that kind of stuff. Just be like, nope, we're not doing that, because we're just not letting that negativity in. We're just not doing that. Okay. So then delete the app. All right. The other thing is in our quest to make likable, responsible, and I didn't say compliant or a doormat kind of children. I meant they need to be independent thinkers, so that when they do run into people who are going to have poor motives or poor intentions towards them, they can stand up and they can go, no, I'm not doing that. It's okay to teach kids to say no. In fact, it's very important. It's supremely important. It's kind of how they say it, maybe. is what really needs to be worked on. So we need to raise, likable, protected kids. But one thing we really have to work on, and this is going to be, I hope I'm not being too controversial here, but the entitlement. There are some kids that they will run amok in a restaurant around, they will. They are screaming, hollering, they're rude, they interrupt, they do all these really kid-like things, but their parents are not correcting that, okay? So for example, if you travel to a country where there's a lot of Europeans, you can see the American kids a mile away, and you can hear them a mile away. The European kids are more reserved, they are more respectful, they are quieter, they have good manners, and yeah, there's a huge difference. And the American kids, you can hear, they're like, Mom, Dad, they're just screaming across the dining room, and they're plenty old to not be doing something like that. It's kind of like, it's just an observation. There's a huge difference oftentimes between European and American, even family systems, okay? So we could stand to learn a little bit from people in other countries and go, you know what, they don't really let their kids run around screaming and hollering and being rude and demanding and all that jazz. So yeah, and I really didn't let my children do that either. Not without getting corrected or a timeout. My boys were the kings of, sometimes they'd be like hitting each other or something in the house, and I'd be like, grab a stool, and they knew what that meant. So one would take one stool and go sit over in the side of the living room, and the other one would sit in the dining room, and of course they'd turn around and to each other, but and I would try not to laugh at that or show that I thought it was funny. But they sat in their little timeouts, and then they put their stool away, and they were fine. But, it's discipline means to teach, and that means in all ways. So, yeah, being a parent isn't easy. It is hard work, and you're not going to be perfect at it, but you can just try your best, okay? And know that we were all struggling or are all struggling with that at some point with something, and it's okay. All right, you'll be fine. As long as your motives are good and you're trying, that's all that anybody can ask. So, yeah, so we certainly don't want to raise narcissistic children. This society is so ridiculous on the narcissism. I can't. We've got people that are, it's crazy. It's honestly crazy. They're just simply, I'll just give you an example. So like in my family, so I have 3 stepkids that are not much younger than I am. Therefore, there's a lot of littles, okay? There's a lot of littles in the family. And my husband was a couple decades older, and judge all you want, I don't care. And then our boys were, a lot younger than the older ones, okay? One thing that happens in families, so especially like with women, right? The women in the family, we're expected to be everything and all things to all people. And sometimes when you have a great deal of children figures in the family, the kids, especially the grown kids sometimes, they forget that their a mother figure has needs too. And that there's so many people in the family, we can't possibly be all things to all people. So they need to step up when they're adults to be more mindful of that, okay? And also like I expect my adult family members to be managing the kids too. And if the kids are way out of line, right, I might, as a like veteran social worker, I might say, yeah, we're not doing that, okay? But I expect that. Now, the entitlement sometimes, when it comes to moms, especially energy, that is, well, just know this. There are simply too many family members in a family. This is an example of entitlement out of, There's simply too many family members in one family for one person just to basically serve all of those. Okay, so patience is required. That can translate over to the world essentially. So there are certain people that are going to go on different I don't know, internet type things, or in certain work environments or other that they feel very entitled. Being around them feels very entitled. They are the world needs to change with that. There's simply too many beings on this planet for everybody to sit and worship just a few of you. Okay, that's unrealistic, you know. So this narcissistic, self-centered, entitled world we currently live in is nonsense. Okay, it's nonsense, and it frankly needs to stop. It's kind of barfy, actually. You know, it seems like people don't hear the word no very well lately, that I'm paying attention to. Like, well, actually, for a great deal of my life, people have had a hard time hearing no from me. That's just an observation. So when you want to test somebody that's really entitled, and you want to teach your children not to be entitled, they need to hear the word no. They need to hear the word no more often than you think. And you need to teach them that you are not going to get your way with everything. That's not realistic. There are too many people on this planet for you to be the only one getting your way. No, you're not. You're not special in the fact that you're better than anybody else. You're not better than anybody else. I don't care what you have or don't have. And we all need to coexist together in a polite, decent way. And those that have a hard time hearing no, watch their reaction. If they become angry, if they become retaliatory, if they want to talk bad about you to other people, if they want to do all of those things, that will give you an indication that there's a narcissism problem and they are used to getting their way. Okay. I actually say no more to those kind of people on purpose, because they need to maybe learn a little life lesson. But anyway, and then as for kids, on ways to protect and nurture our children, challenge them, okay? Don't fix every problem they have. Oh my goodness. Parents, if you put your kids in a bubble and you solve every problem that they have, are they going to be equipped, put together adults and know how to solve their own problems? What's your answer on that? Think about that. So simple things like give kids choices. Do you want to wear this outfit or do you want to wear this outfit? And let them pick, even if it doesn't really match. Get over it, okay? Come on. But because that's not a life or death thing, right? Okay? Speeding, if they choose to speed with their car when they're 16 versus following the speed limit, step in there. Yeah, absolutely. Say your car keys are mine for 2 weeks if you pull that again, and actually stick to that consequence. Do not give the keys back early. You're going to look like a wimp. So, but when it comes to challenging them, challenge them in the fact that you're monitoring their internet activity. Challenge them in the fact that you're expecting them to do homework without you nagging them to do homework. You know, just kind of teach them how to do that stuff. They should be doing some chores, whether you choose to give them an allowance or not. I just think kids learn and grow up to be better adults and just actually take care of chores better without being rewarded monetarily for these things. That's just, I think studies support that, but I'm not really sure on that one. I'd have to research that. When it comes to decision making, give them, if they need confidence. Kids need confidence in their ability to have confidence and faith in themselves. If they're constantly looking to everybody else their whole life, and as adults saying, geez, what do I do about this? Geez, what do I do about this? Guess what? That's not very independent now, is it? Okay. And then who's going to be the most easily controlled and led? People that are sheep, right? People that are following along with what somebody else is telling them to do. They're going to be victimized more. So just don't Have them be thinking for themselves. When it matters, yes, you must step in. You must step in, and you must discipline, which means to teach the best way to handle a situation or navigate it. But other than that, stop doing everything for your kids. Like, stop it. You're actually doing everything for your kids, the things that they can do themselves, in my opinion, or veteran social worker opinion, is akin to some kind of child abuse. Yeah, hear me out. So you're crippling them emotionally. You're not equipping them to handle things in real life. So I'll give you an example. So I've worked in, county social services. I've worked in a day treatment school setting. I've worked in the mainstream school setting for a long time too, and doing on-calls and stuff like that for mental health stuff. This is going to shock people. The day treatment kids are more equipped to handle life's ups and downs than the mainstream kids. Okay? Hear me out. The day treatment kids got individual skills, individual therapy, and group skills. In addition to that, they probably had some outside mental health, like psychiatric stuff. Now, since we all have a brain, we all have mental health, right? But in addition to the services those kids got, they learned depression management skills, anxiety management skills, job skills, all of these very useful skills. They're very successful adults. Most every kid that's gone through that. So, but then there's a lot of mainstream kids in a regular school setting. They're kind of the forgotten kids sometimes because they're not on an IEP and they're not on, not in it, like in a setting where they have to learn these mental health and regular life and, coping skills, emotional management coping skills. So these kids kind of fall through the cracks. And if they have parents that are overly doting, I didn't say you can't dote, just overly doting and overly too fluffy and making them completely too coddled and never letting them figure out a problem or build those skills themselves. And then they don't get depression management, anxiety management, or other mental health coping skills or life coping skills. Those kids are actually behind in some ways than the day treatment kids that got all those services. Yeah, that's true. Actually true. Okay. So number one, don't judge a day treatment kid. They're learning some great stuff. Number two, mainstream kids could stand to have a class that teaches all of this stuff, like a mandatory class. Depression management, anxiety management, life skills, money skills, relationship skills. So they're not getting taken advantage of in a relationship. They can stand to learn all these things. So yes, love your kids unconditionally, but let them solve some of their own problems. Otherwise, you're going to have a 40-year-old kid living in your basement. Okay. Do you want that? Nobody wants that. Because I mean, if you have a 40-year-old kid living in your basement, who's doing his laundry and cooking for him? You are. Okay. So, I want to applaud all the parents of all different ways, methods of parenting and everything like that. Parenting is hard. I mean, honestly, little people require a big investment to raise them up safely, sanely, and to be productive members of society. And most of them turn out just fine, right? No matter what style anybody uses. But, that's one thing. And working with so many kids and families over the years, I never made anyone feel less than, ever. I didn't need to do that, okay? And we don't need to do that to each other either, all right? But also, let's curb the entitlement crap, because honestly, that is out of control. I do not care about looking at Instagram and seeing the latest Instagram, lip fill, rubber injected in people's lips and other places. And that's all garbage. Okay. So just monitor your kids online too. and teach them that stuff, the people that are doing all of that, you know, they have their own issues. And one of them is a big need for attention all the time. Now we're humans, we interact, we do post things sometimes, whatever, okay? That's reasonable, but to be expected to be completely, all this attention and all that, yeah, that's pretty barfy, but, okay. So now your assignment is to go out and make the world a better place. So if you, see a dog running loose in the street, okay, try to look at his little tag and find out who his pet parents are and call them, okay? You know, just go do something nice for somebody and don't take a picture of it, okay? Just go do it. Just go do the right thing, okay? I know you can. And then the last one is, if no one has told you this today, I will. You are special, you are wonderful, you are loved. I love you, and God loves you too.